The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller along with Otto Lohse, co-host. Hello, Otto. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Rebecca. The sun is shining today.
Good
First
day.
time in 5 days.
Now,
So
we
that's a
do
good
pre-record this, so we have no
so
idea
it's sunny, but this
if it's going to be sunny or not on Friday. But today, Wednesday, it's really nice out.
Right.
Also,
I
of
thought
course,
about that.
Also, of course, Kristina Liu, who is the radio show producer. Now that we are into our 13th year of Project Independence and You, having celebrated our 12th year anniversary last week. So kudos to Kristina, as always, for pulling the show together every week with wonderful guests. And today is no different. We have some terrific guests, and also a shout out to Dan Cox behind the scenes. It's a great program today, and we're so happy to have our guests. I'm going to introduce them now. We have Lisa Schwerdt, who is the executive director of the Long Island chapter of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll get into it very shortly. Also, we have Nikki Loberto, and Nikki Loberto is this chapter's board of director president. So we're also so happy to have you as a guest, and we're looking forward to hearing your stories all about this incredible foundation. I hear so much about it from Stephanie constantly. So I'm really looking forward to it. And we have a lot of information, a lot of stuff to get through. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. It means a lot that you are letting us kind of help spread the awareness about the foundation, what we do, our resources, and how we can help the community.
Right. Thank you so much. And of course, the Crohn's colitis, it affects every age, but, we are senior talk radio. So we're, interested in that, but absolutely we want to hear about the impact that it does have on younger people's lives. There's certain things I think that conditions that we don't really associate with young people, but it's not just an older person's condition. But before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Long Island chapter of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, what the true mission is?
Sure, no problem. So the mission of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is to cure diseases like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, collectively known as inflammatory bowel disease, which is IBD for short, and to improve the quality of life of children and adults affected by these diseases. So we're very proud of the fact that the foundation has invested more than $66 million in our mission, the most in foundation history just this past year. And of this amount, more than 36 million was directed to 200 plus research projects. So our total since our inception in 1967 has been nearly $500 million towards research.
Wow, that's amazing. And all the funds go to the Long Island chapter?
No, so we have 34 chapters across the country. So we are one of those chapters. Our national headquarters are based in New York City, and that money goes spread out to all of those chapters where there's research projects that are needed. There is education programs, there's support, there's advocacy that's done across the country to ensure that our patients and their families are getting the right kind of support from government and from insurance companies. And we make sure that we bring the relevant topics to the forefront for our community.
That's wonderful. And Nikki, thank you again for joining us. It's always nice to have someone from different kind of areas of a foundation or an agency whenever we're talking to people. It's great to get different perspectives and reasons that we come to be in the positions that we're in. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're real happy to have you, and we want to get into your story as well. A little bit more about the Long Island chapter. Like what are I want to say the the top tier areas of focus for the foundation, for Long Island specifically?
For Long Island, there's approximately 60,000 IBD patients on Long Island alone. And our priority is to provide support groups for that, which Nikki will go into detail about in a little bit, as well as we do some fundraising events to support the community. And we spread awareness. We meet with doctors and healthcare professionals. We are out in the community as much as possible to ensure that every community, the underserved communities, the seniors, the anybody that has an IBD or anybody that's having symptoms that may not be getting diagnosed correctly is getting what they need to help them live a better quality of life.
Yeah, I'd like to, I've been fortunate so far in my life in that I am not an expert about Crohn's disease or colitis. There's a lot of other stuff I'm pretty good at, but I've been spared. How about giving us like just what I learned, frankly, in preparing for this is it's very complicated. Crohn's disease sounds like that's it, but that's not really the story, I don't think. Is that like just an umbrella term for lots of other things that go on beneath that?
Unfortunately, there is not a one size fits all diagnosis for Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, right? These are very individualized diseases that present themselves in a variety of ways that there's not a easy way to figure this out. There is no test that you can take to say, oh, you're going to get this, or this is what you definitely have. There is a kind of process that each doctor and healthcare professional must go through with the patient, assessing all of their symptoms. It could be gastrointestinal. Some present with skin irritations. Some present in different ways. Their nutrition, they can't keep food down. They're having bowel movements. They're having bloody stool, right? There's multiple ways that it presents itself. So that's why we focus a lot on precision nutrition and more specific, direct looking at the genes and the genetics behind it to try to help as many people as possible get diagnosed earlier.
May I answer that question real quick, as a parent / caregiver? I would say IBD is the umbrella, and then Crohn's and colitis are like two spokes under it. The extraintestinal manifestation, which is some of the things that Lisa just spoke about, is more prevalent in Crohn's than UC. And UC is pretty straightforward. It involves the colon. And typically, once they've exhausted all medications, if they remove the colon, you're technically considered healed. But with Crohn's disease, that never happens. And Crohn's disease can be anywhere from the mouth through the anus, every part of your digestive tract. So you could have sores in your mouth, you could have fistulas at in your rectum, and everything in between. And you could have Crohn's in your esophagus, you could have Crohn's in your stomach, you could have so that's where the complication comes in, and that's where you could get the sores on your arms or your skin. So Crohn's is the one that really has a lot more of extra intestinal involvement.
Is diverticulosis sort of a form of Crohn's disease?
No.
Or is that
no?
So
That's a
lot
gastrointestinal issue, but it's not under an IBD.
Okay. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong from here to there.
Which is why, unfortunately, there's a lot of misdiagnosis, right? Or people aren't getting the proper medications right away if your doctors aren't aware of what they should be looking for, right? It's one of our goals on Long Island and as a foundation is to get that information to primary care doctors, urgent care doctors, ER docs, pediatricians, because if you weren't specialized in IBD in your medical career, you aren't looking for all of these different symptoms or all of these different ways that it presents itself. We've had patients that were diagnosed from going to a dentist because their child was an IBD patient, so they knew what to look for, and they saw something in somebody's mouth when they got their teeth cleaned. So if we don't get that information out to everyone, then we're not doing our jobs, right? Like that's our goal.
We were talking about this on our anniversary show last week, how important education is. It's all about education because I feel like, especially for the younger, it's probably not something that your general practitioner, your pediatrician would even think of, just because they're young. It maybe it's more of a viral thing or something like that. So, Nikki, I know you had talked a little bit about being a caretaker. How if you don't mind talking about how that is, how you came to be where you are, and how this diagnosis comes to be. I mean, in like real time, real life.
Sure, I'll be happy to tell you a little bit about my story, but I do need to emphasize that my story started, well, with my mother, really, so about 30 years ago, maybe a little more than that. But it really started 19 years ago with my son. And in those 19 years, almost 20 years, because of the work of this foundation, it is like light years from what I experienced 20 years ago. So that being said, I grew up with Crohn's. My mother had it since I was probably late teens, but we didn't know what it was. And we're talking, the 70s, the 80s. And it used to be predominantly considered a Jewish illness, and we're Italian. And so it was just one of those things where, like, well, what is this? We don't know what it is. And my mom was on prednisone for 8 years, could not come off of it until she finally had surgery, and then she kind of got a little bit better. So fast forward to 19 years ago, my then 8-year-old son had these unexplained symptoms, exhaustion, pains in the stomach, unexplained temperatures. And I went to the doctor, and similar pediatrician was saying, oh, it's a virus. Oh, he's anemic, all these reasons why these things could be happening. And finally, I, as a mother, went there and said, no, this is not right. He's losing weight. Something's wrong. And I asked to see the head of the practice, who happened to kind of have like a subspecialty in this, and he knew exactly what it was. So sent me to, at that time, Schneider's, now it's Cohen's Children's Hospital. And I saw the head of GI at that day. Within a week, we had a diagnosis of Crohn's disease. And at that point, I said, no, this is an adult disease. Children don't get this. I was shocked because in my world, children didn't get this. My mother had it. So it was really a shock to me to find that out. And the doctor at the time gave me a folder from the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and a bag of pills. So I went to the school nurse, said, here's my son's medication. She said, there's another family in our school with Crohn's. Would you like to connect? I said, absolutely. I got a phone call that afternoon, and she said, come to the parent support group. So I went, and the rest is history. So I've been involved in the foundation now. It'll be 19 years this October, and could not have been asked for a more supportive and amazing foundation to be a part of. My son went in, 100%, went right in for it too. He's a great kid. And since his diagnosis, I've had 2 more sons diagnosed, several years later. So the 3 brothers all have Crohn's. But we've, been on a long journey. And again, I have to emphasize how 19 years ago, there was like 3 medications.
Right.
Today, I can't even list all the medications. That's how many there are. And I'm so grateful because there was a time in my life with my son who was horribly ill at some points where we were like, all right, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. And then the next thing would come. So I'm happy to say that we're not ever going to be at that point. And even happier to say that, again, because of the work of this foundation, my other 2 sons have A, never been on prednisone, and B, have never been in a flare since their original diagnosis.
Really?
Because we got them on the right treatment right away. They were diagnosed about 10 years after my first son. So that's how much progress was made in those 10 years.
That's an amazing story. And are they considered in remission, Nikki?
For all intents and purposes, yes. Remission means that you're asymptomatic. So yes, they are in remission. But the thing with Crohn's and UC is that you can be in remission one week and next week you're not in remission. Like at one point, one of my sons, we were told, oh, he's in deep remission, and literally like a month later he wasn't. So you have to. It's very fluid.
Right.
But yes, they're all doing very, very well. They're very healthy. They're all on different medications. It took a long time to find like what works. And even like one of my sons was on Remicade, which is a very popular medication. He was on Remicade for 12 years. And just this year, he had to come off of it and go on to Humira. So it happens. But again, we have so many options today. And there is just, and it's, we're continuing. Like I just found out recently that there's, hopefully soon, Humira, which is an infusion. We're going to be able to do it as an injectable, Remicade, which is an infusion, will soon be available as an injectable, like Humira is, so patients can control it themselves. They don't have to take time off of work or school. They don't have to sit in there for hours getting an infusion put into them. So, and the foundation is also underwriting research into oral medications and different ways to tell if people are starting to flare and inflammation markers are elevating. So all of this is a research things that their foundation hopes to underwrite, is underwriting. And, I couldn't ask for a better foundation or to have for my children.
I have to say, thank you for sharing that, your incredible journey. And I'm so happy. And I think I speak for everybody that the boys are doing so well. And it just really emphasizes, Nikki, the importance of a foundation like the Crohn's and Colitis, because without that kind of place to go and figuring out how to get that research done and like just what you were saying from 19 years ago, the medications, and I mean, it's just amazing. We actually have to take a very quick break. We'll be right back with Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM, and WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast, and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. Those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
And welcome back to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, of course, along with Otto Lohse, Kristina Lou, and Dan Cox. Our very important guests today are from the Long Island chapter of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, Lisa Schwerdt and Nikki Loberto. Thank you both again so much for joining us. It's so important what you do. I'm just in awe of Nikki's story and also the fact of how much advancement there is, but there's still a long way to go, because we want to get to the point where maybe it's total remission, or maybe it's one shot a day, whatever it is, you want to make it, especially in such young lives. And we're just glad that it's a time now where there's a lot of advancements. One of the things I want to talk about, because I'm sure it's something you guys do deal with, and I worked with Stephanie for many years, and part of our relationship, 99%, has always been humor. We make fun of each other. She makes fun of how old I am, and I make fun that she's completely gray and looks older than me. So, there's a lot of things like that we do. I'm kidding. I love her to death. But, I know that there's a stigma with this, and I feel like people, and even the older generation, yet another kind of thing to have to deal with. So it seems like, even with like mental health, there was before COVID, right? There was such crazy stigma. I mean, the stigma was terrible. No one was really seeking help or questioning what's going on. And then during COVID, everybody became isolated, started kind of recognizing things. And I think part of the stigma lifted. And then the problem was there wasn't enough services for all the people that needed it. But the stigma that was there isn't as strong as it was. People don't want to talk about mental health issues, especially older people. I mean, and younger people, anyone. People are afraid. Once they think, oh, they find out I'm depressed or I have anxiety or whatever it is, you're just kind of, I feel like some of that's lifted. And I know that. There's probably a lot of that impacts people seeking help, which is really such a shame. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and how the foundation deals with those issues and kind of is more helpful in terms of education, I would think.
Sure. And that's a great point, Rebecca. We do have a ton of resources on our website, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.org, where we provide letters for employees, right, for the employers if they're dealing with this, right? This is a chronic illness, and it does cause people to have to miss work, take time off, unexpectedly take time off. And there's a lot of pushback that some employers give when they don't understand it, right? And back to that education piece. They don't understand. They think people are just slacking off when they're not. So we really are there to be able to provide the backup documentation that they need, the right way to to use the right verbiage to use in their letters that they send to their employers that outlines what's going on, as well as for students, for parents. We provide the information that they should send to get the right 504 for them in their classrooms so that they can get up and go to the bathroom or have water at their desk because they need to stay hydrated, or be able to eat when they need to, right? Or any of those things, or be able to get extra time during a test because they might need to take a bathroom break in the middle of an exam. And it's so important that people know that they have someone that they can rely on and trust that they're getting the right information from, to be able to go back to their schools, to their employers, to their colleges, whatever they're doing in their lives, to be able to still live a full, productive life in the right way.
Nikki had mentioned that when with the older son with the first diagnosis, and she met someone at school, and they said to her, "Oh, come, we have a support group." What types of things do you have for those people, maybe newly diagnosed or kind of newly coming out? I'm interested in the kinds of support you have for.
So I can answer that. And also I wanted to address what you said earlier about the stigma. There's a huge stigma around this disease. We call diseases sexy or not sexy. Diabetes is a sexy disease. Crohn's and colitis is not a sexy disease because no one wants to hear about your poop. So that has put a huge burden on especially young people who are mortified, like literally mortified by this disease. And, and people who don't understand it going, ew, why do you smell? Like that is, I can't even tell you how many times that's happened. But part of our goal is to try to sort of take that stigma away and say, it's a disease like every other disease, and there's nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed about. So to that end, we do have a myriad of support groups. We have in our chapter alone, we have an adult group, which is open to males or females, whether you're suffering with the disease or you're a caregiver. It's kind of open for everyone. It is virtual. It's run by the male who runs it. His wife has the illness, and the other one is a patient. It's a great group. And then we have a caregiver parent support group that I run with my friend Barbara, and that's been going on for over 20 years. And that's predominantly parents. And we're there for anyone who has any questions they have, newly diagnosed, ongoing issues, things like that. We have people coming in and out, all age group of kids, from little kids to 30-year-olds. And then there's also a women's group, which is very, very active. It's been going on for many, many, many years. Not sure if that one's virtual or in person. Lisa, you might be able to answer
Virtual.
that.
Yeah, most of ours are now virtual
Yeah.
because of the pandemic.
Right. And the people seem to like it. They don't have to leave their house, and it's kind of like this sort of thing.
Right.
And in addition, we have a 5-town South Shore support group that is it's co-sponsored by the Congregation Sons of Israel of Woodmere. That one is it's a good group because it really does address the needs of maybe like some Orthodox people or people who just aren't comfortable being in, they want to be like in their own community. So that's a really important group. And then the foundation itself has an IBD military spouse support group. We have a veterans support group. We have a Spanish-speaking support group,
Wow.
and we have support groups for children with IBD, 10 and under, middle school, and teen. And in addition to that, we have Camp Oasis, which is this like phenomenal program. It's run all over the country. It's 5 days. It's in the summer. It's a sleepaway camp, and it's a very minimal fee. And if you can't afford it, they have scholarship programs. It is strictly for IBD kids, and two of my children went for a number of years, and it was life-changing for them.
You go to like a lot of places today that are gluten-free restaurants and celiac. I mean, I was away this summer and there were certain restaurants that, where they're familiar with celiac conditions. And I'm wondering, there's a few questions I have. I want to make sure we get how people get in touch with you and find out about these wonderful programs and get involved in the foundation. But this just came to mind. So I just wanted to ask, I'm sure it would be comforting for people to know that there are stores or restaurants that are friendly to people with Crohn's and colitis who, don't have to run in a store and find where the bathroom is or something like that. I mean, that would be a great place to get to as well. And I don't know, you may already have something existing like that.
So we have a couple of things that relate to that, right? Maybe not exactly that, but that relate to it. We just launched a gut-friendly recipe website on our foundation website where you can find recipes and ideas to make for people with IBD or other like celiac disease, other kind of things that where you need to maybe be able to create a substitution, like you can't have cauliflower, but the recipe called for cauliflower. What could I make in substitution of that? Or, I want to do something, but I don't want it to be low. I want it to be low carb, or I don't want it to be gluten-free. And you can favorite the items in there. You can comment. You can see other people saying, oh, I made that. My kids loved it. It was so tasty. It's a great resource. We partnered with Nestle, and it is an amazing resource to really get information out about meal choices and meal prep, right? That we hear that that's a big issue with people when they're newly diagnosed. They don't know what to eat. They don't know what's going to happen. Right. And it is a trial and error, right? You have to try things, see what works for you, see what doesn't. So that's one piece that we do have there. There's hundreds of recipes in that, and they're adding them as they come in. They're fully vetted by the foundation and nutritionists to make sure what's going in there is valid, right, for the patients. And then we also have the We Can't Wait app, which is what we use for restroom access. So you can download that app, and no matter where you are across the country, if you need to get to the bathroom and you want to find a safe, clean bathroom, you can find one where, like, close to me, where is the closest one that is going to accept you and not ask you or not give you a hard time about maybe, making a purchase before you can go to the bathroom. Right. So we have that. It's very crowdsourced. We have a ton of information in there, but people can add bathrooms.
I downloaded that app.
Yeah.
I downloaded that app, and frankly, it's not just for people with Crohn's. There are a lot of other people that have problems, which admittedly, I have a problem sometimes. And the thing I liked about it is also you can add your own stops Like I on my phone have things there that I know on the Palisades Interstate. There's only so many places you can go, and I
Yes.
know where they are.
Mhm.
So that's an important point because
Yeah.
there's nothing more than being uncomfortable
Yeah.
for either reason,
And it
front or
also,
back.
the app gives you the opportunity to rate a bathroom. Like, is it clean? Like, is it safe? So you're not just walking into some disgusting thing. So it's,
Mhm. Like a
it's a,
porta john at the
yeah.
Jet game.
Right.
That was pretty bad.
So, well, it's so good to know that there are apps like that, that there are food plans, that there are options, and it's only gonna get more education, more informational, and maybe some restaurant owners. I'm sure there's a lot of store owners and restaurant owners that have a family member or perhaps themselves and can make their place accessible to people so they can enjoy and not worry so much, and something to think about. I don't know, I was just thinking about that because I
Yeah.
was actually not to brag, but this summer I had an incredible journey in Italy. They had on their menu all about celiac disease. Apparently there's a high percentage of people, and there's no stigma.
Right.
Gluten free. We know what happens when you eat gluten and you're not supposed to. So, I don't know. It was just kind of, I was like, oh, that's great. I think here too, we're starting to do things on that level. But Nikki, what you were saying, like a little bit on the more sexier stomach issue level, not necessarily.
Right,
But
exactly.
it's
Celiac would be a
starting.
sexy thing because it's like there's nothing gross about it. It's just you can't eat
Right,
gluten.
right.
But
You know what? One
yeah.
of the things, listening to Nikki, your story, which is very tough because that's not a one-day deal. That went on for many
Mhm.
years. And the need for people to, and include myself in this, to get an understanding and be more educated about what this is. And it requires an understanding, and on your end, frankly, as a caregiver, a tremendous amount of time and patience, and just to get to where you got, the communications required to diagnose the problem. This is not like a one-shot deal. This is like an
Mhm.
ongoing, starting right from the beginning. When it's diagnosed, it requires communication with you and your doctor. Hopefully the doctor understands, and anyhow, the point being that I empathize. It's not easy. Uh,
Thank you. I will tell you that, and again, bring back to the foundation. When my first son was diagnosed, I was on Long Island, and at that time there were not a lot of doctors who really knew what this was, and I was not really happy with the level of care. So again, went back to the foundation. They said, you need to go into Manhattan. You need to see this particular doctor. And they got me in quickly. And that was a game changer for us. And from then on, we were always in Manhattan. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name of the hospital, but in case you don't want me to, but I won't. But we had such a positive experience in New York with the doctors that we had there. And the doctor we had was one of those doctors who said, listen, we'll try anything. We'll throw it against the wall. And if it sticks, it works. So she wasn't just, oh no, you only need to use Western medicine. She's like, we'll do nutrition, we'll do Western medicine, we'll do a combination of,
Hmm.
she was just fantastic. And, but you're right, Otto. It was, back then, I mean, I never went back to work because I never knew when my son was going to end up in the hospital. He was in the hospital several times a year. I have to be there with him. He was a little boy. I had 3 other children at home. So someone had to be, kind of caring for them. I was always navigating insurance companies, navigating doctor appointments, medication, infusions. So it was quite a journey. I'm happy to say we came through it in a good way and everything is fine. And they're adults now and they kind of deal with their own stuff. But I'll still get a phone call sometimes like, Ma, what do I do? Ma, how does this work? And no matter how much you try to prepare them to take over their own care, there's still a lot of like, just this last summer, my other son said, Mom, I've been bleeding a lot. I'm like, really? Now you're telling me this? You're bleeding again? So we had to go through that whole, process. And so it's always there.
Now, does the foundation, you said that they gave you the name of a doctor. Usually people are reluctant to give doctors names. Would the foundation do that? Would they say, we know these doctors are in a good hands? You'd be in good hands?
You know what, Otto, we're going to answer that question. We actually have to take a quick break, but that's a great question. You're listening to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back with the Long Island chapter of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I am Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Lohse, Kristina Liu, and Dan Cox. We've been speaking with Lisa Schwerdt, who's the Executive Director of the Long Island chapter of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and also Nikki Loberto, who is the Board of Directors President. I want to again thank you both so much for joining us for this hour. It's just a wealth of information, such incredible education. I know before break, Otto had a question, and I think there might even be a part two. So why don't you recap your question, Otto? And
yeah, basically, you mentioned that 20 years ago, or whatever the number, the foundation gave you the name of a doctor in New York. Most of the time, organizations seem to be reluctant to give names of doctors, if you will. If we were standing on the street in the corner somewhere, you could tell me and it wouldn't be an issue. So I guess the question is, would the foundation do that, number one? And then the second part of that really relates to medication. I saw the guide that you have on your website about meds, but that's part two. Part one, doctor.
Okay, so I'll take part one first. For doctors, we have a lot of very strong relationships with medical professionals from all areas, right, and all institutions. So we have a professional membership group of doctors that support our foundation, that work with us very closely. And what we do is we usually typically will give 3 or 4 names of recommended doctors, not one over another, so that people then can make a choice themselves, right? We can only give you kind of who's in your area. If you ask us, we'll give you 3 or 4 people that are close to where you live, where you reside, where you work, whatever you're looking for. And then you can choose. We recommend that you kind of interview them yourselves, right? Because not every patient loves every doctor, right? It really is a one-on-one relationship. So you need to go in, share how you want to be treated, how you want to work with a doctor, and see if that person works with you. So that's how we handle it now. We give 3 to 4 names of a local doctor that's near you, and then recommend that you reach out to all of them and kind of interview them, right? You should be interviewing your doctors to make sure that they're what you're looking for.
Yeah, we very much on this show in the past have promoted, you had something on your website also, or on the notes that we got, communication tips. A lot of people are still reluctant to talk to a doctor like the doctor's a person. And I think it's important that what your points are in your notes about this particular Crohn's disease looks like it requires a lot of communication. And if you don't tell the doctor your story and what's going on, and then the part that you pointed out is if you don't feel comfortable talking with that doctor, then don't go to that doctor, because reality is this disease sounds like there's going to be a lot of ongoing communication with this doctor. And if you don't have that rapport where you're comfortable, I could see that being a big issue.
It really is. It's very important that you're your own advocate, right? That you are able to feel like you could speak up about what's going on, that you feel like they're respecting you and listening to you and hearing what you're saying and not dismissing your symptoms or what's going on, because this is a chronic disease, right? You're going to live with this for the rest of your life, unfortunately, at this point, right? There's no cure, and there's no quick fix for this either, unfortunately, which we found, even with proper medication and diet, as many as 2/3 to 3/4 of the people with Crohn's disease will require surgery at some point in their lives.
Yeah.
So,
And also, two things. One, Rebecca, to address the nutritional thing, it's so strange, but every person reacts differently. Like I've met people who can't even like smell a piece of lettuce without being in the bathroom. And yet my kids can eat salad every day and it doesn't even bother them. My mother couldn't eat an onion, and my kids so there is no one size fits all. Like with celiac, it's gluten. With an allergy, what triggers it. But with Crohn's and UC, it's really individualized. And then to get back to the the doctor thing, you're right, Otto, because like I had one of my sons when he transitioned to the adult world. We went to a doctor that was recommended in Manhattan. He was all excited, and he goes, and he went 2 times, and he goes, "I really hate this doctor." And I was like, okay. And I said, he goes, "Find me another doctor." I gave him a few recommendations from our known list. And he went and met them. And he said, "I love this one." And he's been with her ever since. He goes, "I really, really like her a lot." So, it does you have to really connect with your doctor, feel comfortable with them, and feel like, I think when he was going to the first doctor, he just felt like a number, like he wasn't really being seen and heard. And so he had to find his own person.
I wanted to just ask too, before we go too much further, it gets too close to the end of the segment. It's multi-level. So how do people get in touch with you? How do they access you? I was taking notes and I don't even know what I did. What kind of like local community events are there? And just basically, how can someone get involved or someone reach out to you?
Sure.
I want to make sure we do that part 2 yet about the meds.
Yes, I will come back to the meds, Otto.
Yeah, they have a guide.
Yep, we do we have a very great guide that's listed on our website as an IBD medication guide, where you can enter in whatever a doctor's recommending that you take, and you will be able to see the white paper on that to see what the symptoms are, how that's going to interact with other medications you might be taking, and just give you a little bit more of an in-depth look at those meds that all that information has been vetted through the foundation, so you can trust that information is accurate and up to date on the different biologics that are out, other medications that you might be suggesting that you take. So we really do recommend that you utilize that, right? It's a great tool to be able to arm you with the right questions to ask your doctor when they prescribe a new medication to you.
Okay.
And on your, Rebecca, on your comment about who to reach out to or how to reach out to us.
And and how can your local, I know you have a lot of events and fundraisers and.
We do. So the website for the foundation is crohnsandcolitisfoundation.org.
No.
Our email in Long Island.
Is it Crohn's and Colitis or Crohn's Colitis? Because on this it says Crohn's Colitis.
No, Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.org.
Okay. All one word, yeah.
I went on, that's an interesting, I'm sorry, but what I saw was Crohn's Colitis Foundation.org without an and.
Let me see. Let me make sure. Hold on 1 second. Because you know what, you say it so many times, right? Like
I know. That's why I just want to verify that too, Lisa. Because in my notes here it says Crohn's Colitis, no and.
Right.
But
we'll come up with that. We'll definitely confirm. People can always call 311 for the town or 516-869-6311. We'll just ask for Kristina or me. We'll be happy to get you all the best contact information.
It is. It's Crohn's Colitis. You guys are right. There is no end. Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org. And the website, the email address for us is Long Island at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org. So you could email us directly at the chapter, or you can call us at 516-222-5530. And if you give us a call, we'll be happy to help you, direct you to whatever you need, wherever that question you might have. We have tons of opportunities for volunteering within the chapter, within the office, and at our events. And I think, Nikki, we're going to talk about some of our
Yes.
upcoming events.
We have several events throughout the year, but our two big events are our walks. We have a huge walk in May at Belmont Lake State Park, and we have another one coming up just in a few weeks. October, I believe it is the 22nd. It's called our Gold Coast Take Steps Walk, and it's in North Hempstead at the North Hempstead Beach Park in Fort Washington. It's a great event. It's usually the weather is phenomenal. You can't beat it that time of year. It's right on the water. And it is a great way for families and people to come and get together, meet other people. The great thing about the walks, they don't, other than your own fundraising, it doesn't really cost anything. Just come and check us out. We usually have information booths set up, and it's a really carnival-like activity, and it's a lot of fun.
What was the date on that one?
October 22nd. It's a Sunday. And then in addition to that, we have a Carnival for Cure Gala. That's going to be a big gala coming up. Lisa, what's the date of that again?
April 12th.
April 12th. Thank you. We also have an event every summer. We have a summer fun golf event where it's just like it's not a true golf outing. It's just sort of a casual playing, and there's if you go on our website, the details will come up as we get closer to it. And then every fall we host something called the Winning Hand, which is a luncheon for mahjong, canasta, and other games. It's primarily for women. That's also a lovely event. We have raffle prizes, we have vendors, we have a luncheon, and then you can bring your friends and play your games. So those are the things that we have currently. We're always adding new things. In addition, we have educational programs throughout the year. And as always, we welcome volunteers. We need volunteers for meet and greets. Sometimes we ask for volunteers to help put together like swag bags or for setup. So if you're looking for opportunities to just do something, this is a great way to get involved and meet people. Did I miss anything?
Right. No, that was it. That was good.
That's great.
Always, I think it's difficult nowadays to raise money, frankly, because there's a lot of people trying to get money, and you have competition, obviously.
Yes, we do.
So it's tough, and getting volunteers apparently is no picnic right now either. I think a lot of it changed after COVID. People got used to being in and not volunteering. It's tough.
Right.
We have slowly
Otto, and I
started to
think
see
you
the shift.
had some medicine.
Oh, no, I was going to say they slowly started to see the shift of people actually coming back out again. And it's been lovely, and people are enjoying seeing everyone again, right? And getting together and being together at our events. And, the Gold Coast Take Steps is outside, and it's such a beautiful day, and you get to just see the presentation, and the speeches are just so moving. And it just really helps to bring that awareness about what's going on and what we're doing, and kind of help us raise those funds to support the research that keeps, getting better and better to get us closer to cures.
Is there, like, I have a friend who does have Crohn's disease, and I actually talked to him because I asked him if he had any questions he would want me to go down. And he said no, that he's been under control for the last 10 years because of diet and exercise. And so that was a good thing. So that was the end of the conversation. It was short and sweet, but that was good for him that it was under control. What I hear from you, though, is you can get flare-ups that
You can.
Yeah.
Just
and
all of a sudden show up.
Like any disease, Crohn's is on a spectrum. You could have mild disease, you can have moderate disease, you can have severe disease. And like I was shocked when some doctors said my son had moderate, and I was like, moderate? What does severe look like if this is moderate? I can't even imagine. So, if you have mild disease, diet and exercise might be all you need, but with moderate to severe, you might need more intervention. But to that end, Otto, as far as questions, we do, I didn't mention before, we do have an IBD help center that is also available. There's a phone number if you want to put it into the show notes. It's 888 My Gut Pain, and then extension 8. And it's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And there's someone who they can help you out with insurance information. They can help you out with advocacy. It's for patients. It's for caregivers. So, basically it's a help center. And if you go on the website, you'll find probably more information about it there too. And we also have a Power of Two program, which is it matches you to a peer. It's a peer-to-peer support program that connects patients and caregivers living with IBD. You can self-match with a trained mentor who knows what you're going through. And the Power of Two makes it easy to safely share your questions, your experiences, and your challenges with someone who understands.
Project Independence has nurses and social workers that go out to people, and I'm assuming Kristina and Rebecca that there is a relationship already with the foundation. That would be like one of the tools that they would use.
Well, certainly now that they took Stephanie from us, there's a relationship, but that's another story. Of course, they have a lot of information, but we're always looking for strong partners, and I'm sure Kristina is taking notes. I know her, and she's trying to figure out what groups you could speak to. Maybe we'll have an in-service meeting with you and the nurses and social workers so they have a good understanding of how you can assist in certain ways. Networking is, in the top 3 of what Project Independence does. So yeah, I just want to get back to one of the things you were talking about, Lisa, just how we all kind of went virtually and how wonderful, being able to connect with people who maybe are in a terrible flare-up and can't leave the house or just prefer the comfort of their own home can take part in these services that are offered. It's so wonderful. It really is. I'm so glad that you guys continue to utilize it like we do as well, as we're on the Zoom right now for the radio show. It's so great. And, the points that Nikki was talking about too, with the advancements of medication and having to use less and less maybe a shot as opposed to an infusion. Are there some things that coming down the pike that might be, that are kind of interesting? I do think, one shot as opposed to infusion is great, but things that they're looking at, and is there a lot of research now? Is there more attention on it? And, just kind of looking down the road, what we could see.
Sure. So we have a very wide range of research projects that we support, right? And they're very innovative. So we have the standard, what you would consider research, where we're looking at new meds, new medications, whether that's ingestibles or infusion medications or biologics that we are looking at. But then we also have other testing basic research things that we're doing so that there's a less invasive ways than colonoscopies or endoscopies, right? We're looking at other ways that are less taxing on the body and having to be put under to help kind of diagnose where you're at and what stages you're in, as well as other really cool inventions like, pills that you could swallow that will track and deliver medication to a specific area of the body, so not wasting that med as you swallow it and it goes down normally. So
unfortunately,
yep,
we have to go to a break, and there is so much more. I know you'll be back on the show. I'm sure that we'll have you come do some in-service, some education. I want to thank you both so much for taking time out, sharing your story, and telling us all about the Long Island chapter of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. We are most grateful and look forward to future endeavors. You're listening to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.